Southern Washington?
We're in Oregon still, yeah. We just both got we got jobs going, both of us, and it's gonna take a little while for that payment things to get into motion, and we're gonna try to find an apartment as soon as possible. Probably, hopefully, within like a month or so.
That's good.
Yeah.
You're both working at the same place?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and then I have two jobs. I'm doing 20 hours at one, 20 hours at the other, and Andrea's doing the same one that I'm at, plus some other things on the side.
Cool.
So,
Hello there.
hey Daniel.
What's going on?
Nothing. Everything. What's up, Jimmy? Welcome. I can't hear you. I think when you first join, you need to go and unmute yourself. That's just standard for Zoom.
How about now?
Perfect.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Good.
I'm glad you could join us finally.
Yeah, at last.
Yeah, at last. So, everybody, this is Jimmy. This is Daniel and Derek,
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
and this is Samir.
Hey, Samir.
Hi.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So I think we have Guy3 should join, and I think perhaps Fabian. I forgot all who said they were joining, but we should have a fairly full house today.
Yeah.
Hey, does anybody know, is there a way to get all the participants into one window on a phone?
On the
It
phone?
only wants to be 4 at a time. Yeah.
Is it that whoever's talking is it just going between whoever's talking? Is that how it's appearing to you?
Well, right now it has Jimmy and Daniel and you and me at the top, and then whoever's talking, it lights up the bottom screen. But if there's any more people, like, I don't get to see them. I can only hear them unless I switch over to another screen.
Okay, maybe if you click on your screen up near the top, or click anywhere on there and see if it can toggle between speaker view and gallery view. You want to get to gallery view, I think.
Okay, what do we got here? Okay, there's all kinds of little stuff. I don't mess with this stuff very much, so.
Yeah. If you click on gallery view, then it should even everybody out across your screen.
Okay, let's see.
So while Derek's trying to do that, Jimmy, would you like to introduce yourself and give a little bit of background?
How much background?
However much you feel comfortable sharing.
Well, I'm retired anyway. I was working in IT for years. I've retired for the last year and a half.
Okay.
I got into this through UU, as you know, Gary. You know UU, the UU room. And a few years ago, I started looking across a guy called George, somebody in the UK. Can't remember his second name. But he used to put stuff up about the royal family and actors and so on. And that got me interested in finding out what was really going on.
Right.
So that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I'd say. And ever since I've been searching. And I still know nothing.
Yes. Yeah, it's very important in this place to not. I would say that's the number one thing that I've learned is to don't get attached.
Yeah.
Because every thought form, every emotion, every experience that you have in your memory, all of it is attachments that want to intrude on the present moment. And if there's too much of those intruding, then you have no peace. That's what I've found.
Yeah.
You gotta be in the present.
You got to stay present, yeah. And that's when things are going sort of normal in the present moment. If it's crazy, chaotic, and all that stuff is trying to act on it, then you're just. That's how we have schizophrenia and bipolar, MPD. All of these diagnosed disorders are just, I feel, a matter of the multidimensional aspect of the realm not being properly situated within one's own being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tried everything. I tried all religions. I was in the Mormon church for a while. I was also in, you probably never heard of this, but it's called Falun Gong.
Yeah.
I heard of that.
Uh-huh.
I was in that for about 2 years.
Yeah. I think I ordered a book by somebody who was in that particular sect. It's involving motion, right? Kind of like working with chi and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very like Tai Chi, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's multiple methods, but every one of us is very unique, and just some stuff doesn't work. And depending on your sensitivity, like Andrea and I are very sensitive, so I know for myself, I went into just like block everybody out, block everything out, stop researching, don't buy into any thought form whatsoever, and then just only pay attention to what's directly manifesting in my
I
bubble.
think I was doing it just to find. I don't know what I was looking for, but find it. But you can't find it outside.
No, not at all.
It's inside.
Yeah. Hey Omar,
Hi, Omar.
can you hear us, Omar?
Hey, Omar, Dr. Beans. I love you too. Wish I could grow hair.
Hello, Mom.
I don't know if Omar can hear us at the moment. So I finally, I'm outside of a McDonald's right now. We've been, as some of you know, we've been like hotel hopping and trying to figure out what's going on in Oregon. And I've been going to Starbucks with limited success. Like last week, I think a few of us were here, and Samir, you were here, Omar was here, and it only lasted for like 10 minutes before I had to shut it off, or before it shut it off. But McDonald's is working great. There's plenty of parking. I'm right in front of it. I tested the speed test, and it was like 70 up, 70 down. So like the internet here is flawless. So this should be a good show.
I watched one of your older videos there yesterday. There was one where you were doing a social experiment. Do you remember the woman in the car?
The woman in the cat?
The woman in the car.
Yeah.
She tried, yeah. And then the guy stopped as well.
Wait, women? It was a video of mine?
Yeah.
Well, it was.
You were doing a social experiment and you stopped. And this woman in the car stopped. And she offered you something to eat.
Oh, it was it in the parking lot, the gas station parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very interesting, and if I remember right, the first woman I talked to was just completely freaked out and was like having none of it. And
Yeah.
then the second one was like, "Oh yeah, how are you doing?" And she was actually a little bit open. But then that was the same one where the guy was getting all pissed off, right? And he was like, "Don't harass her," stuff like that. Yeah, it's very strange. There's something about the way that everyone is programmed here that if anything out of the ordinary comes up, even if someone is being very sort of innocuous like I am, I'm not an intrusive personality, but if I'm just coming up to you and speaking outside of the accepted box in how people are supposed to speak to you, then it's just like ding ding ding, alarm gong is going off inside their head, and they're like, some attack must be happening.
Yeah. I think it was good in one sense and bad maybe in another, but it was good that somebody actually stopped thinking that that woman might be in some kind of danger.
Yeah.
It was good in that sense.
Yeah. That part is good. But I don't know. We have a lot of walls collectively that need to be sort of dissolved, I think.
Yeah.
Because if none of that is ever allowed, if none of that sort of curious, like playful interaction is ever allowed, then it is just going to be the machine. Like when you look outside and you see the cars going in a certain way and the people walking in a certain way, it's just the machine mind that's being woven into the actual individuality, and it's not interesting, it's not fun, it's not like a dance or a play, like how Aurora talks a lot of the time. She's like, this is a co-collective, co-creative dance or orchestra that we're supposed to be doing here, and there's lots of bad notes going on.
Oh yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Agree wholeheartedly with that.
Right, and not only are bad notes being played, but the guys who are in control are the ones playing the bad notes and also condoning the bad notes. And then when someone tries to play something that sounds beautiful, they actually get attacked because the system is inverted.
Well, that's how a hive mind has to operate, though.
Yeah.
A hive mind has to be cohesive in a machine-like organism, you know?
Yeah. It's very strange.
That's why all roads lead back to aliens. That's why that makes sense to me, you know? It really does. Alien intervention.
Mm.
It depends on what you mean by aliens. Like some
Some
people.
sort of hive-minded race.
Yeah.
I used to believe in aliens, and then, well, I don't today, but part of it is like now it's a TV show, right?
Ancient aliens.
Yeah. I mean, come on, like if they're making a TV show or a movie about it, it's like almost always bullshit.
It is, but there is snippets of truth in Ancient Aliens, I think. Here and there, they'll throw out something that's really special, but most of it is disinformation, most likely.
I used to watch that show mostly for the historical part of just going to cool places that you're not going to get to go to, probably.
They had a really good episode on Australian Aboriginals several weeks ago. I don't really watch that show, but that one was actually really good. If you guys,
is that the one about the Dogon people in the Dog Star?
I saw that one as well, but the one on the Aboriginals was really quite mind blowing.
Yeah.
What was it? What was that saying, Daniel?
What do you mean?
Like, what was it? What was it saying exactly about the Aboriginals?
That their claim is that they originated from the stars. They're people. And their entire premise is that they came down from the stars to Australia, and they have basically a lot of interactions with other species throughout their history, basically.
Yeah, there was a book, I forget, it was about Australia. It was about this woman who went and she explored with the Aboriginals for something like a year, and they had all sorts of amazing methods of healing things, and everything that they needed they gleaned from the earth itself. And not only that, they weren't like dumb. You know how the pop culture displays or portrays anything native as kind of like a dumb backwards civilization? Like they don't know how to use machines, they don't know how to do any of the things that we do.
Right.
It was the complete
they don't have money,
opposite.
They must be primitive.
Yeah, it was the complete opposite. Like these people knew of everything that was going on in America, and they were like, they weren't even just angry at them. They were like, these people are doing a really crazy thing over here. They're fully giving themselves into technology and like fully removing themselves from the divine, and they're having their little experiment. And these Aboriginals were like, they're our brothers and sisters, but we can't interfere too much. But they were actually interacting and communicating with the people that were stuck in the technology, just in the dream state or the etheric state, rather than trying to do anything person to person.
Oh, interesting.
And she went for like a whole year, and she walked barefoot. She learned a whole bunch of stuff from the plants and had all kinds of visions. And it's an amazing book. I forget what it was called. It was something Down Under. It was like Trouble Down Under.
I might have read that actually. It sounds really familiar. Yeah.
Do you know the name of it?
The Castaneda style book.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah. Yeah. And in Castaneda's books, they said the same thing. They said, "Oh my God, Don Juan. Oh my God, are we really just cattle here?" Like I remember that was one of the things that he was all freaked out about when he found out that like harvesting was going on. He just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, what Don Juan do? Laugh probably. Like of course.
Right. I think there was a little bit of laughing involved, because I think when you come around to looking at it, it starts looking like the whole realm is just a big harvest operation, and then everything else is like just layered on top of that to try and cover that simple knowledge up. I just went by a Christian church over here. It's like it was labeled like the harvest. It was actually like the name of the church.
Your soul deposited here.
Oh, well, I've always been really confused about that though. Like when they reference harvest, what does harvest mean? What do they mean by harvesting a soul? I never understood that. Somebody explained this to me.
I think it means, well, the general consensus that I'm aware of here is that we're projecting here from some other, like we've incepted many layers to get here.
Okay.
Consciously. And some people say like, oh, our original bodies are in the halls of Amenti. Like if you listen to Becky, the woman I had on recently, she's like, oh, there's this big egg-shaped structure with spiders on either end, and that's where we're
Like the movie The Matrix?
kind of like that, a little bit like that.
Okay, interesting.
But the idea of soul harvesting would be that since each person is fragmented, like I had a session with Becky just today, and she was looking into where she says I'm looking into where your light body is, which is not the same place as here. This place is a projection. So she was saying you have like 100 different projections going on from your light body, and this here experience that you're having as Gary Wormerdam is just one of those boxes. So if she's going back, she's looking at like the source of it. And I think soul harvesting happens when all of your fragmented pieces get convinced about something or other, and it starts having a trickle back effect back to the origination, and that's what the machine is trying to get at through the tendrils back to the original.
So the origin is like your oversoul, like the
Yeah.
totality of yourself.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Okay.
So it's happening on multiple layers, and you might feel tremors at this level, but it could just be something that's happening to another of your fragments that you're not like
Right.
directly consciously connected to.
Like my dreams, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even what's his name? Adyashanti. Have you heard of him?
Maybe.
He's one of these just like sort of teachers. You know how you have like your Mujis, Osho, these guys, these so-called enlightened gurus. Like Adyashanti to me is a more down-to-earth version of that. And he said, you know, he was meditating, asking to see what the reality was, and eventually like he shot up out of his body and went, and he was able to see all of the versions of himself. He was able to see what they were doing. Some of them were in trouble. Some of them were having a great life. You know, he would go to some that were like in the process of drowning, and he would go comfort them. Like, so he went up and out to the meta perspective, but he could go individually to the fragments and sort of help them. And to them, it would look like, you know, some angel is helping me, or some, you know, maybe God is helping me feel better about whatever current experience I'm having.
Interesting.
So it's not just like a thing that I came up with. It's sort of reflected in a lot of the main esoteric teachings that I've become privy to.
But maybe there's really not a lot of us there. There's just lots of little pieces of us here.
Yeah, it could very well be. And then you would add into that the NPC phenomenon, which is probably just super advanced technology that can make, you know, video game 3D characters reflect your own soul essence back to you and make it feel like you're in a world with a whole ton of like alive people, when maybe it's more of a 3D video game type of a thing. Is it Omar?
Did any of you ever read my holographic matrix Godhead theory paper that I wrote?
No, can you send that to me, please?
Yeah. It's something that I think I had dropped in the original Snail chat before I ignored it, because it pops up all the time when I'm trying to browse Facebook and gives me a hard time. Because I don't use the app, so I just had to ignore that. But it's nothing personal. But anyway, so yeah, the paper is something I wrote in 2008 and 2009. Yeah, 2009, and it's about all the fragments and how that reality integrates into some kind of metaphor that's relatively easy to understand. But I had actually, funny that Gary had just mentioned this about that Adyashanti guy. In 08, 09, I had been looking at his videos and his writings and stuff. And at this point, I know that he was just paraphrasing other things that have been written for thousands of years, but it's modernized in a way that's doesn't require a whole lot of digging to understand where he's coming from, based on our cultural precipice and vernacular with how people think these days. So that's very useful in how his material and how he presented the material with his words. And yeah, basically, it's really funny because I've had that experience too with all the multiple versions of self and stuff and going out the head and all that, but it's not. It's so easy to look externally for things that you can answer internally, but until you have any success looking internally trying to answer things, it seems like it's wasting time because it hasn't worked yet. So there's that. And the halls of Amenti, the Akashic records, and all of these things. For years, I was under the impression that it was some kind of external place, but at this juncture in time, and I could still be wrong, of course. I'm convinced that it's an internal place and a state that you can access, and
There's the door.
When you're in that state, you know everything you need to in real time, and all needs are taken care of, and they all are all the time anyway. Mm-hmm. But it's the trick of this external perception that as we move through space-time in our bodies and look at things around us with our 0 point, which is our being, and our two eyes, if you think about being centered and that expression of being centered, you stand as the dot, the singular dot in the center of a circle or a sphere, which is around you and makes up your consciousness and your energy field and your patterning. When you look at things with your eyes that are variably mutable by other beings or consciousnesses or entities or plants or things in your environment, you're affixing your two eyes and your attention and your focus to that other object that you're not in control of, and it changes the ratio of your perception because you have to reconcile what that object is against your understanding of self, and that's where you have that's where reality and perception are infinitely variable because everybody has a different 0 point. But I'll stop there. But there was more, but that's fine because that's quite enough.
Everybody has a different 0 point, which makes every soul unique and on a unique journey, which is why you can't claim there's this type of afterlife or that type of afterlife or this type of pre-birth, because we're all unique.
Of course, and that's actually really important that you said that because it makes everything that I just said completely not relevant.
Wait, it does still, no.
So if you really want to understand what it's like, it's everything and nothing all at once that you could ever imagine and haven't imagined. And that's what this reality is. It's infinitely mutable.
Yeah, and that also means that we, being infinite, we speak the little wiggles into being. So, and it doesn't matter if we're saying something that's completely contradictory to what we just said 2 minutes ago. It really doesn't matter. It can matter if you still have fear stuff to sort of burn out. It can matter because that will bring fear up. You're like, oh, that clashes with that prior thought form that was just worded. But in the end, in a 0 point, the 0 point doesn't need any manifest anything to exist. All the manifest stuff simply exists within that point. It contains everything, and it doesn't care what's inside of it. It's like the TV caring about what sort of movie is playing on. The TV does not care at all.
We can presume that it's always existed.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Well, the TV is it operates on light. It operates on photons. So it is like a miniature sun. It does whatever you feed it. It just acts as a sun.
Oh, it's impartial, I should say. It's
yeah.
Right.
But it's a being unto itself. It's a collection of wires arranged in a certain pattern and shape and size to make it work a certain way. It has an anima even though it doesn't have its own thought forms.
Yeah. Fabian, can you hear us?
Yeah, hear you good.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, Fabian.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello.
Did you have a good cross country skiing trip? I think I saw you saying you were about to go ski somewhere. Yay, nay. Did you ski?
Yeah.
How was it?
Well, it's inexplicable, eh?
Yeah.
Like, a wonderland with the snow and the trees and all there.
Nature. There's no replacement. There's no replacement for nature, but that's what the technology is trying to do. It's trying to copy all of the organic stuff, which is fine, of course.
It's just to try to find somebody to come with me. I'm constantly alone, eh? So it's like, trying to wake somebody up and say, "Hey, come on, let's go skiing." They're like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever thought to consider that maybe the reason that we create all this technology is because we've disenfranchised ourselves from an awareness of nature and we're just trying to copy it so we're reminded of it?
Yeah. It's like I've always thought back to like, where did all this start? Where all this trouble humans are in, and I was like, well, maybe when someone first picked up a stick and used it to like pry a boulder out of the ground or something, maybe that was when technology first came, and then they're like, oh, that helped, that was easier. Let me now fashion something that will give me leverage against my enemy across the forest or something, and maybe that's where it started. But then
or throwing rocks, I think.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, the original?
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Uh-huh.
Remember where they find the monolith?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's your phone.
Yeah, it's the phone.
Big black rectangle.
Yeah.
The Black Mirror.
Just that moment that Gary's speaking of. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
That John Dee used. You know how he used the Black Mirror?
Oh, don't bring that guy into it. His books are weird. They're interesting, but they're weird.
Never heard of him. John Dee.
Well,
John Dee was a Rosicrucian in the late 1700s. Wrote some interesting books.
Okay.
I have a few of them if you want.
Yeah.
Samir sent me a really good video talking about Michael Tessarian talking about him.
Oh, yeah. Tessarian's good.
Yep.
He's an interesting gentleman, yeah.
He's English, right?
One of those places.
Irish.
Oh, Irish.
Irish.
Yeah.
Mm.
Irish, yes.
Are you Irish too, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I am in my blood, but I don't have the living experience of it. But if I'm around enough Irish people, I end up fucking talking like it, and it's really quite funny because it's in my genes, so I can't really help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, language is
Fucking
catchy.
What?
The language is catchy. Like, you'll be around a certain group of ethnic people, and then you'll start to get their slang of it. And then after you're away from them, you still have got that thing,
Oh yeah. I just meant epigenetically because I'm part Scotch Irish.
Yeah.
It's like a recessive gene, right? Once you come around Irish people, all of a sudden that one becomes activated.
Well, when I'm alone in the woods and I'm bitching at myself, I become like Scottish, like Big Dave. Get the fucking thing out of here.
Yep.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Start doing the jig and put your kilt on and all that.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, there's no jig when you're pissed and pissing tossed.
Try riding a bike when you're pissed.
What's that?
Cycling a bike when you're pissed.
Aye.
Yeah, it's like you osmose when you're around. Like they say, you become the average of the 5 people you hang out most with. It's like that's trying to happen in society, but it started getting too chaotic, so they tried to bring management systems in, and they kind of did that also via what do you call it? Stereotype programming. So like they program certain races to hate other races, and it kind of segregates. But I think that also made it so the consciousness doesn't just like swim around and sort of coagulate in certain areas naturally. They weren't really interested in all that happening. So I think a lot of control measures were pasted on top.
Well, my dad put it this way, and he used to be a naval intelligence officer. He said the entire system is about perception management, because if you can control the way people think about things, you can control their reactions into a predictable matrix of events, and then you don't have to worry about ever changing the status quo.
Right. But then that's bringing willful denial into the picture, because it does give people the ability to look up at the sky and say, no, there's nothing up there, nothing's happening, or look at, anything you could point out with any particular belief structure and just flat out deny it, because that's my perception that what you're saying is untrue, even if you would see it. That's what I came to. Like, you could have someone getting like stabbed in the street, and you could ask a bystander, is that person actually getting stabbed? And some of them would maybe say no, and they would say it's a perception thing. I don't think that person's actually getting stabbed. That's that's the height.
Yeah, it does do that, and at the same time, it does bring back the priest class sort of concept in society, because there are people that possess the facility to help move things along in a way that's best for the greater good, and then there are some people that can't see that, and everybody in between. But ultimately, what he was saying is that the perception management isn't necessarily an evil thing. It's just as necessary for society to not tear itself apart as religion is, because we have so many people in the world, and they don't have the tools to rationally think through this world in a way that is interoperable with everybody else and reconcile everybody's belief systems. So it was far easier for the governments of the world to get together and manufacture a certain number of preset ideological subcultures and foist that upon the modern ever-growing world, because as population increases, entropy increases, and if you don't have a way to keep things sort of going along in some sort of predictable manner, literally all chaos breaks out. And he just said, trust me, it wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
It sounds like a controller point of view, doesn't it, though?
Well,
a little bit.
Keep in mind, this is when he was working for the government, but
it does make sense. It does make a lot of sense that if you just let it go however it's going to find the biggest ditch and crash hard into it, right?
Yeah, his point was a simple one. It was that people do not currently possess the intellect and the skill set to self-manage.
We're not taught to self-manage anyways.
And he said that was why. He said it was fundamentally a function of education. And so it's kind of like a catch-22 it's happened. If you really want to get down to it, it's a secondary and tertiary effect of the industrialized economy, because that is what removed the oral wisdom tradition from families. But really, ultimately, after 200, 300 years of that, people don't know how to people anymore, and so they need somebody to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, that seems to be the case.
And it went the other way. We gave away all our rights.
What's that?
My brother was talking to me last weekend about who should be president and who to vote for, and I said, don't vote for anybody. Like, just govern yourself. Because as soon as you're voting for someone else to govern you, you're sort of giving away your own ability to govern. Don't vote for any of that nonsense. Do something else with your time.
Jimmy, can we get subtitles on your channel?
On my channel?
No, can we get subtitles on his video feed?
Am I hard to understand?
I'm kidding, but you know, like a Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, where every time they say something, it's subtitled.
Your audio is a bit funky, Jimmy. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that's literally what I meant, because it does that 1 week to me, and one person ends up getting the shit end of the technology stick, and they have what's called a high latency. And so when they talk, it's kind of choppy and it's hard to piece together for the brain. But it's not actually your accent. I was just trying to make a good joke.
It's a little bit the accent, but it's mostly that the audio is a little bit distorted.
I have no accent.
You have no accent.
What?
An accident, yeah, it's not an accent.
Yes. Yeah, you can buy external mics, Jimmy. They're not that expensive if you would like to try and increase the audio quality a bit.
Yeah. I have a laptop, but I've also got it's mirrored on a big screen here beside me as well.
Okay, I got you.
If you're using the laptop microphone, that's why, because those are usually terrible.
Yeah, it's built in there.
I'm using the laptop audio. I haven't even been using the good mic since it's in storage right now. But
well, Macs are purpose built for conferencing, so they come with good mics.
Okay, good. I'm just happy that I finally found good internet. I paid $5 to Motel 6 for fast internet, and like it didn't even work at all. So it is what it is.
I've done that before too. I was in between apartments a few years ago, and actually ended up living at Motel 6 for 8 weeks.
That's probably what we're about to do.
And what I ended up doing was just using my LTE and increasing the data plan, because it was way faster than the Motel 6 paid internet.
Yeah, I could do that, but there's a cap of like 15 gigs for hotspot, which I was using this for a hotspot, but 15 gigs runs out really quickly, especially if you're using your phone a lot for work and other things.
Yeah, well, what you can do is if each one of you is on the plan and it's the shared plan where you each have the data cap, then you can make one device a hotspot, and when that 15 gigs runs out, make the other device a hotspot, and then make the third device a hotspot, and you have 45 gigs.
What's the third device?
Your phone, Andrea's phone, and maybe you have an iPad with a data plan?
No, we don't have any third data plan.
So then you have 30 gigs.
Yeah, but we already used all those up.
Oh, I see. I get it.
Yeah.
That's me too.
Yeah. Because my iPhone is ridiculously fast. It's like 70 or 80 gigs up and down. And if I could tether that speed, it would be fine, but it throttles me automatically.
You can get one of those pay-as-you-go hotspots from one of the phone carriers, and you just pay $10 and then you add like 100 gigs to it. The LTE ones.
Yeah, it's probably something to look into, but I see us being in an apartment that we can get reasonable internet relatively soon. So, and now I know about McDonald's, so I'll just keep coming to McDonald's and doing it like this.
Well, it's got to be good for something. I mean,
get an apartment close to McDonald's, and you don't even need to worry about it.
Right.
As long as you're within about 200 meters,
hey,
probably catch the signal.
Yeah. You guys, the thing is about to run out. Is anybody interested in continuing for one more 45-minute session?
Sure, why not?
Or are you guys bored?
Okay.
I got other stuff going on, but I do appreciate being able to hang out with you guys today.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. Derek has been missing for what, like a month now? So good to see you.
Almost. Yeah, I've been doing work at my mom's, so it's right at the same time when you guys are getting together, so I've been missing.
Yeah, it's all good. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I'll provide
nice meeting you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I'll provide the link on the other side, all right, you guys?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
That's really weird.
sir.
Okay. I had to shut down everyone individually. That's very strange. All right, round 2. Round 2. There's that one. Oh, that's why it's not working. There we go. Fast internet. It's amazing, isn't it? Fast internet is good. Or maybe nobody will show up. Back up. All right, we got Jimmy back. I think you'll have to unmute yourself again, Jimmy. There you go. Can you hear me? I see you're. Are you trying a new mic? It's still saying that you're muted. Maybe I can unmute you. Yeah, I'm not able to hear you. You can, Jimmy, you can click chat in the bottom of the screen and you can type messages out until your audio comes on. But whatever you did the first time to let us hear you should work again. I can't hear you. What's up, Fabian?
Hey.
Um,
At my buddy's place, they're playing in the backyard with his kids.
That's where you're at?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Did you hear Kobe died?
No. Who's Kobe?
Kobe Bryant?
Didn't know him.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have known him. He was one of the most famous basketball players of our era.
Okay.
I guess he died in a helicopter crash today. In California.
Okay.
But if you don't know him, you can too, of course.
Oh. I know Neil Peart died, though, from Rush. How did you know?
A Rush person died?
Yeah, the drummer.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so the music community got hit there pretty good. So.
Yeah.
Again, I was a master.
Jimmy, can you try speaking again? I hear lots of... I think I might be able to hear you now, Jimmy. Something came on. Maybe this show was destined to go one go only. What else have you been up to, Fabian? Anything new?
Oh, everything, eh? Been working on like electric generators stuff, like
Yeah.
yeah. So, and electric motors of all different kinds, and well, being occupied, eh? Supposed to go play with an old guitar player I used to play with back in the day.
Yeah.
Supposed to start something up.
Omar, can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. I think. Do you remember? Was Jimmy wearing a mic before, or is this new for him?
Is this a new what?
I'm trying to figure out if Jimmy was wearing that mic or if it's new. He's kind of
Oh
disconnected.
no, that's new.
That's new. Okay.
He was smoking before. You don't dare mix the two.
Okay. You sure?
Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
By burning microphones.
So
you tried to put your cigarette out on your microphone or something?
Smoking microphones.
No, dude, use your head. You're trying to smoke with this thing glued to your face. It doesn't work. You either drop the cigarette on yourself or hot ash, or you burn the microphone.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
That's too logical. I was
Yeah, I
you know how I'm walking dogs for some pennies till I get other work?
Yeah, and it seems like what I suggested you do is upload these pictures of these happy dogs to the social media photos thing, and then approach the owners privately and just take the money that the company is collecting and just become the dog walker guy. Get the higher percentage.
Yeah, I know that's possible.
Because if you show them pictures of how happy their fucking dog is, they're gonna see that in the dog, and they're gonna be like, "Dude, my dog's not that happy when I take it for a walk. This guy's good."
Yeah,
I want my dog to be that happy, and then they'll pay you.
I've thought of leaving because I was planning on doing animal Reiki at some point along with people Reiki, but I was gonna like leave a flyer. But I have all kinds of ideas and I'm gonna implement them, but we have other things to do first. We gotta get like a stable housing arrangement.
You're in Oregon, so
first and foremost.
I would hold off on the Reiki idea because they're scared if you're even from
California. There's more Reiki people.
They don't want you there.
No, there's more Reiki people here than in California. I did my research. Anyway,
are they working on each other as a pocket universe, or are they working on the regular people?
I don't know. I haven't met any of them yet. I just know when I looked up Reiki Oregon, there were lots of different practitioners, and in Fresno there was none. There was me. That was it.
Huh.
Very strange. And I wasn't even officially. I was just like randomly, "Hey guys, want some Reiki?"
Because what happens a lot too is areas will stratify themselves around perceived needs, and so often, like in San Francisco, there were a lot of tech people there before the tech boom, and then the tech boom happened, and then they were like, "Hey, we already live here. Let's just work in this field, okay?" And so, like, there's a lot of Reiki people and drummer people and all that in Spokane and Oregon and Northern California, but there's a lot of tech people now in Austin, but these patterns seem to happen on their own. It may not actually be to any end other than to serve communities getting together, but the bigger question is the community developing in an insular fashion, or is the community developing as a part of the actual community that's already there?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet, but I will.
Like I see a lot of that going along on like this, like teaching processes, and it's like a course somebody's been taught to them. It's not experience kind of thing. Because there's lots of names on things that mean nothing. Like me, Ricky, I don't know what it's about, but hand healing, touching kind of thing, that I do know. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
energy, but when you're getting it off somebody else, like it's tricky. Like,
Yeah. Not only that, to add to that point you're making, there's there's the kind of Reiki where you're acting as a conduit for the atmospheric or the earth energy, and then there's the Reiki that most people do because they weren't trained properly and they're just giving their energy.
That's the wrong kind,
Yeah,
Omar. That's the wrong kind of Reiki. You don't do that kind. I don't do that kind.
No, I know, but that's what most people are doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like I've seen a lot of people doing Reiki, and it's like, you know, they're talking about it, and it's all like love and good, and you know, big smile, but it's a forceful smile, and it's a persona that they're pushing, kind of thing, and it's not an experience that they're living.
Yep.
Like, yeah, and what they end up doing is they get addicted to their feeling of being emptied and slowly. Whoa! What the fuck is happening? They get addicted to their feeling of being emptied and slowly refilling.
What's all that feedback?
Okay, now it sounds like somebody has a microphone way too close to their face.
Jimmy, can you hear us or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jimmy's back.
Can you move the microphone away from the electronics that you just set it next to? There we go.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Beautiful.
It was creating feedback.
Jimmy, when you had that mic, were you able to hear me at all or no? No. Okay. He got muted again somehow.
It's because the microphone is still plugged in and now it's on his floor.
He says it's not plugged in.
Oh. Okay.
Omar, fix it.
No, we had the answer there.
Did that work? Did that work, Jimmy? I heard you just 2 seconds ago, and then I don't hear you anymore. What happened? We gotta learn how to. We need lip reading technology, lip reading to voice technology.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one jammed again yesterday, the exterior one, but I got it working back.
Well, it's Jimmy's first time, so we can work on that. Are you saying oh my god, Omar?
I was saying, oh my god, Becky, her butt is so big. She's like those rap guys' girlfriends or something.
Like one of those
Sir Mix-a-Lot song?
Yeah, I know. I know that dumb song, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think dark for me, eh?
Well, technology is a weird and finicky thing to begin with, and then if you add an empath to it, then it becomes complicated to that extent. So.
Yeah, I tried dating a girl once that fried computers and she got mad. That didn't work out very well.
Yeah.
I built a computer for her one day and she walked by it and started screaming and the screen was like and then I had just built it and just finished installing Linux and I turned it on and she got mad and started screaming. The screen it looked like somebody smashed it with a hammer or something and then you heard the fan turn off and then it was dead. It was a doorbell. Could not turn it on. It was plugged in. Couldn't turn it on.
Wow.
Surprised smoke didn't come out of it, you know?
Yeah, that can happen. Do we have any burning desires or any topics that anybody wants to get off their chests?
I gotta always think of something, but somebody else.
You know who Kobe Bryant is, right?
Yeah.
You know he died?
Yeah. My mom posted like 9 articles about it on Facebook, and I took her in text message and said, "What you're doing is very bad, but you're not doing this on purpose." And what did I say? I said, it's okay that he died, and it's sad that he died, but 1,000 people died yesterday in Africa from starvation, but that's not getting your attention because it's not being discussed. The Kobe thing got your attention because it was being discussed. People live and die every day, but it's not news. And the real message I'd like you to consider is, why am I reacting this way and choosing to have this reaction? Did the news media tell me to jump, and then why did I jump? What are they triggering in me that make me react this way and feel these things when I didn't ask for that today in my life? And am I okay with things that I'm hearing? Or if not, then how do I modify my behavior so I'm immune to this type of manipulation? I said, "Mom, nobody needs to be told. Believe me, the whole fucking world knows he died. What you're doing is being spreading fear porn. It's the thing people do on social media, and it's bad juju." And then I said, one post is fine, but after that, it generally bothers people. I'm only trying to help you see it from a different perspective, things to consider, you know? And she goes, "Okay, I appreciate that." And then I said, "Here, look at these beautiful fractals instead." And then she said, "Okay, I'd rather look at some beautiful pictures. I love you. Okay, thank you."
Wow. That's interesting. Usually people don't take so nicely to being told to not spread viral fear porn. That's nice. Your mother must love you.
They've become invested in being the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
They feel it's part of their identity to tell people about things that they come across that are disturbing. But while that's part of human nature, it's after doing it for maybe a few weeks or so, if you don't notice that there are thousands and thousands of people doing that exact same thing, then you should work on your self-awareness. But it speaks to the bigger problem, which is that we are not using this tool of the internet for positive change that we want to see in the world. We're just using it as a gigantic water cooler.
Yeah.
Hey, did you hear what Bob did over lunch? He sold that car that you were about to sell to the Joneses. He sold it for $2,000 less because he wanted to make the sale first. How do you feel about them apples? Did you hear about the Vatican and their weird connection with CERN? Yeah, that's fucked up, isn't it? Yeah, fuck those CERN people. Yeah, are you doing anything, or are you just bitching? Bitching is not useful. Do it on your own fucking time. Don't make other people have to deal with that.
So what news would you consider as a discussion topic? What level of virality is too much for you?
Well, my perspective may be weird because everything that's being discussed right now, I've been thinking about already for 20 years. So it's not like I've seen anything new on Facebook that I haven't already heard, and that in itself is annoying.
Yeah, but that's a you problem. Now, I could have the same problem, and I have had the same problem, because once you've been
This is interesting. I'm just going to listen now.
Yeah. Once you've been through, once you've seen enough thought forms, there isn't anything new to you. There just isn't. So therefore, at that point, you either say, I'm going to go hide in a cave so nobody harasses me with boring things that I've already known about, or you have to say something like to the effect of, okay, somebody brings up a thought form that is old to me, but I love this person, so I'm going to somehow find a fresh way to interact with that, rather than thinking it's like rehashing something that's old news to me.
Oh, I understand. Okay. what I've just decided to do to entertain myself is make my own thought forms and expose people to them.
That's good. That's great. Jimmy, your mic is working now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, it's much better audio quality. Much better. Congratulations.
I had to take this out. Jesus.
And also the you may be judging me for bringing up Kobe Bryant, Omar, but there's a reason why I said that, and the reason is because I'm not discriminatory in my random topics that I bring up, and I don't really judge them that much. Like, I could glean as much exciting things to think about with regards to Kobe Bryant as I could if you brought up string theory or what the fuck CERN's doing, or whether McDonald's is about to.
I'm not judging you. I was just making random examples. So yeah, I'm curious though. What do you got?
Besides Kobe Bryant?
No, about Kobe Bryant. I'm curious about everything. I just was voicing my opinion, which sounds like a disgruntled monkey sometimes.
Kobe.
But really, I'm good-natured at the core of it. Yeah,
no, Kobe Bryant. I didn't grow up with TV, as you may or may not know. I grew up homeschooled, and we didn't have access to social media. But for entertainment, we would go over to our friend's house and we'd watch every single Lakers game that was ever played while we could watch it. So I got a lot of Kobe Bryant ingesting into myself, and so to me it was more personal than it would be for people who don't give a shit about NBA. That's it.
What was the emotional process like? Was it something that it felt like something from your youth had expired, or was it deeper or less deep, or was there any meta analysis on your end of how process the event? Or
it was because I don't connect with NBA players for the most part. For the most part, they're just people doing things on TV, and I don't. It's whatever. But Kobe, I actually felt somewhat of an emotional connection when they would interview him. Like, he seemed like a very down to earth, sort of empathetic individual. So I did form some connection with him, whereas with most other NBA players, I wouldn't. So yes, I did feel. I was sad, I was like, oh, Kobe died. That sucks. Not because he's famous, but just because like he seemed more like a real human to me than a lot of the other NBA players that I'd hear talk on TV.
Yeah, I get that, and the same thing happens. I think it's just a normal thing because in like Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, those two actors, they were tremendous human beings, and when they died, I was sad about it because I thought that they were very nice people.
Mm-hmm. But as far as
Neil Peart that just passed away, that's a master that that's left.
The Rush guy.
Yeah, the drummer, right? Like,
yeah.
But leads ways,
It is weird. Death is a weird thing when you come around and you're like, oh, death doesn't really mean what we thought it meant. It means something else, like transition or something. It does change perspective when you hear about someone dying, rather than immediately thinking, oh, did they go to heaven or did they go to hell? Or whatever, whatever you thought beforehand. Eventually, I just started seeing death as someone got removed from the Matrix and they're tired of being in the Matrix, and that's all there is to it. But I don't have like a ton of sadness. It's more of just like an item of curiosity to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost made a really bad joke.
What stopped you?
Okay, I'll on with it then. Did they go to heaven or did they go to hell? Are they doing Jesus' shirt laundry or are they taking it from Satan in the ass?
Yeah.
Which side did they end up on?
I think they went back to nature.
Omar, that's actually not allowed. Like, you're not allowed to actually think about what might, in a practical sense, be going on in heaven or hell. That's strictly not allowed. So you're probably going to get punished for that, I would say.
Somehow that's not funny, Gary.
Okay. He doesn't look worried.
As serious as unserious it is, it's also very serious on some aspects. Although I think when you've been through enough trauma, then you can kind of laugh at everything. But it's hard to laugh and scream at the same time if you haven't.
Oh, I've been through enough trauma that I have to laugh at everything.
Yeah.
If I didn't, I would have been dead a long time ago.
Yeah. They even say it right in the it's the best medicine. They say it right out there. So laugh, be merry.
The difference, I think, is when you catch yourself laughing sardonically about something, you're not quite done sorting it out.
Yeah, then you get a nice whammy really quickly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other day, I was laughing about how my mother drives, because she'll do this thing where she has the right approach angle and everything is perfect, and then she'll move the car either way too close to the parking spot or way too far away from the parking spot, and then the car will just stop, and you're like, oh shit, the pattern started, and you can just watch this happening from outside of the car as she's parking, where everything's normal, and then all of a sudden just something happens, and the car is now in the wrong place, and she gets up to the spot, moves very slowly. Oh, nope, that's not going to work. Then the car starts reversing, but too slowly for the correction, and then she backs out and then goes closer, then backs out and then goes closer. And eventually the car parks, and then it's like when you expect that the cars came to the stop, it stops. No, it's not done yet. Either the car goes backwards, and then she hits the brakes, and then does the parking brake, and then the car does this thing, and you're like, I'm so glad I'm not in this car right now.
What is she?
This is confusing.
What does she say? Does she think she's a good driver?
Yes.
We all think we're good drivers.
Yes,
it's
unfortunately we do.
Omar, it's just your perception that she's a bad driver. She's actually having a very highly creative driving experience.
Oh no! I'm not actually saying she's a bad driver. I'm saying that her style of driving is so antithetically different from how I pilot a car. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I have to remove myself before she parks the car. Otherwise, it drives me crazy. So I'm like, hey, could you stop for a second? I gotta get out. Don't tell me there's anybody coming up behind me. They can wait. They're not going to drive through a parked
car. Does that carry over conversationally or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about perception again.
Yeah.
Nobody's right or nobody's wrong. Everybody is just experiencing.
Yeah.
And so these people online, I had somebody last night try to make a friend of me, and they sent a friend request, and I don't do well with that. And so I sent a message. I said, hi, how are you? Who goes there? And they said, hello, new friend. Are you a flat earther? And I said, no, I'm not a flat earther. And they said, are you a truther? I said, no, I'm not a truther. And I said, the search for absolute truth is actually quite funny because there is no such thing. It's all perspective driven and this and that and this and that. And then they accused me of being condescending. And then I said, no, that's actually something that happens a lot when people are threatened by having their belief system challenged. But it's not actually me that's a threat. And what was your name? You never told me your name. It's the way that you're talking to me that's condescending. And I said, that's not the intent. And then I blocked them.
You didn't want to hop in any of the boxes they offered for you?
Nope.
Oh.
My time is too precious to me.
Well, that was probably offensive to them because they couldn't figure you out.
I know, but it's not my job.
They're not interested in eternally evolving mysteries, Omar. It's not on that.
They just want the absolute truth. I know, but it's not my job.
You can't handle the truth is very correct for almost all people.
And so I have to be happy with my box because I can't make the horse drink the water.
Can't make anybody do anything. You can try.
No,
That's
No,
all.
no, it doesn't work.
That's all we've been trying here, as far as government is concerned, the entire time, is trying to make people do certain things.
And that's why they have the most impossible job, because it doesn't work and they know it doesn't work. And so they have to be really creative and trick people into doing things.
Yeah.
But somewhere in there, and this goes back to something my dad said again, he said, when I worked in the military, I noticed two things. There are two types of people that have this job. People that genuinely believe that they're trying to do some good in the world and they're trying to affect positive outcomes for the whole of humanity. And then there's the other type. That other type are literally some of the most evil MFs I have ever come across in my entire life, and I wouldn't wish them in a room with the devil.
Because they would hurt the poor devil.
So that's interesting because those two types are working side by side, trying to achieve the same result, which is social order.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. And the funny thing also is, like, it's strange even that the government is perceived to have a lot of power, because they're not really any more organized than the populace is. They're just like, it's just a group of people standing underneath a fucking umbrella. They're not really that much different than your ordinary Joe, I don't think.
No, they're not. The things that they do differently are they apply logic and rationale and methodological approach to things, and that in itself is powerful because it's organized. But yeah, they're just regular people. And when I went to Burning Man and saw just how much regular people who are focused on the same shared ideological goals could achieve within a week, building a city, hauling in a city, assembling a city, putting out all of these structures together, helping people with things that when you set up your stuff and then you go and walk around and help other people set up their stuff. And that doesn't happen in the regular world. People do what's asked of them and then they go to lunch or they go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, compartmentalized, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because and I don't like the saying "as above, so below," but it is relevant. It is like it's a fractal, right? So we do that just as much in our own personal lives as we do in the workplace. Like the mind itself, at least the monkey mind, it wants to have the logic actually work. So when you throw the word banana on top of the actual, thing that you were bonking your head with 10 minutes ago, it needs to somehow fit a little bit with context and all that. And if it doesn't, it makes our monkey mind real upset. So that's why police officers can beat the shit out of somebody and feel totally fine about it, because they will throw some other words on top of that situation and it will make them feel fine with it.
Well, imagine trying to rationalize like this video server that I thought would be done by now. Imagine understanding the steps to do it, knowing what the steps are, following the steps, and then all of a sudden there's a software error where the system won't accept a certain version of Java and it needs another one. Okay, fix that, but then now the media server won't start and it doesn't identify that there's a user under Corrento to run the server Corrento, which is already installed. So I'm like, okay, well, I changed one thing to Java, and now the server doesn't know what it is, but this is illogical, so what actually broke?
Yeah. And that's
that type of non-linear process is really fucking funny.
It's very frustrating, and that's without even considering, things outside of your bubble that are like, I don't really want Omar to be super successful with this, so let's like spray some Omar non-success stuff, in that general direction. Like there are other influences. I just feel that we isolate ourselves in our bubble and we don't even know what's, like, if you expand it out and you saw the layers to your own self, like, it'd be crazy, to actually see how many things are affecting your own, like, Omar is trying to build something. How many things and beings and thought forms and, past and future correlations and all this are literally like working together within that one simple thing that you're doing.
Yeah, but at a certain point, when you can reconcile all those different factors together and you can be more focused in the present than the summation of all of your future and past selves and all the external variables, then you actually experience what I like to call your first small win, where you realize that you are that omnipotent creator and you have just somehow solved all of the future problems related to that one thing to make it work. But not to sound like a delusional nutbag, what I'm really trying to say is that you can be so focused that all of those things come into an alignment to get what seems to be impossible done, but it's not a skill commonly evolved or developed in people, but it is possible.
Yeah, it is possible.
And I'm not a master of it by any means, but it's something I've experienced somewhat.
And they are small wins, because when the moment that you jump out of the boxes, because that's all you're given from birth, the moment that you jump out, you're in that sort of creator aspect that you don't know anything about, and immediately, like the boxes, I'm sure were protecting you from lots of things that couldn't see you, or they thought, that child is in school, so let's not bother them. And the second you hop out, they're like, oh, somebody wants to play, let's go play. And so I think that's what you're dealing with when you're saying small wins are important, because it is important. If you can have a thought form and manifest it in this particular realm, it wasn't a small win, that was a massive win.
Yeah, and that process of playing with the energies, or whatever you'd like to call it, or understanding the dimensionality of those external factors and how they do or don't influence things, and how you can tell them to fuck off, is really important, because otherwise nothing would get done that you really want to see.
Right.
But it's absolutely there, yeah.
Yeah, it's something like the whole universe is conspiring with you, whether you win or lose. Like the whole thing is a big old conspiracy, and you're just at the center of it.
Pretty much.
Jimmy, have you had any success in manifesting sort of personal things that you've wanted to see happen in your own life?
I have, I suppose. Yeah, I'm 66 now, and I started drama at 60. So okay. I do pantomime every year at Christmas. Where I live.
You pantomime? So like mimicry?
Yeah.
You're on stage?
Yeah.
Was that like a personal sort of thing that you were trying to? Were you fearful of public speaking, or like what got you into that?
I just started it off. It just came to me.
Yeah.
Then I started archery 2 years ago.
Do you still do that?
Yeah.
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 How do you feel when you see, you're performing for a group of people and you see that you're affecting them? So how does that make you feel?
No, it's good. Yeah.
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 It's like feedback resonance, right? It's like when you're talking to someone, you can read in their reactions and how they move themselves. You can literally see that you are having some effect on that person, though you don't know exactly what it is, but it does become some sort of, it's a feedback, like a dance type of thing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. I would recommend everybody to get themselves into some position where they're having to speak in front of a group of people. It does so much for personal confidence if you've been sort of insecure in any fashion, because the crowd, so to speak, is not nearly as judgmental as it might seem at first if you're scared of it.
Yeah.
They're not as judgmental as you are of yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that the first time I read a poem to a group of people, some of them cried, and I thought, wow, they actually connected with it. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, right. we are our own worst enemies, but we also have to pull ourselves out when we get ourselves into a thing. And, you know, sometimes that means just energetically making ourselves available to receive help from other people. Sometimes that is how we pull ourselves out. I don't know. What do you think about that, Omar? Do you think you can, like, revive yourself, resuscitate yourself, or do you think other people are integral when you're trying to, like, wake up a little bit?
You may not like this, but you did ask. I think that most people are just looking to have it done for them, but then when they realize that the people that they were either studying from or idolizing or listening very intently to actually can't tell them anything they can understand without first having to realize it themselves, it's very confusing but very empowering. And then that starts to drive the individual's discovery process of themselves. But until you realize that you are the source of everything you need to know, it's very easy to look for external catalysts in that way.
Yeah. And then, of course, these words are confusing because, you know, we are the source of everything in a sense, and the external is also our internal, and the words can jumble up very, very easily. But there is a distinction between sort of self thoughts and external other thoughts. They are not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, well, it's the thing Rene Descartes was talking about with lines in planar geometry. You come off of the singular plane and then you have all of this stuff to see, but it was there whether or not you went off and viewed more than one plane, more than one dimension. But at the same time, all of those things are in you at the same time. Everything's infinitely refractive. Why do you think it's so fun to look in a mirror when you're a kid?
Right.
Because it's this device that shows you your reality, but in the same time, it's a symbolic metaphor of every child's understanding of reality.
Yeah.
Because whatever you point it at, it's there. And that's the same way that our eyes work, our brains work.
Hey, Omar, sorry to cut you off. We have about 10 seconds left according to my calculations, so thank you everyone for coming on. And next time. All right. That was fun. That was good. Thank you, everyone who made it this far. And I found good internet at McDonald's. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought that internet at McDonald's was the answer to all of our woes? I think we're on number 12. And that was very successful. Excellent. Snail Collective Weekly 12. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week, or I'll probably make a video in between. But anyway, thanks for watching and take care.